All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Daniel Krynzel, who is the creator of Godspeed and the God Walk app software. Daniel, how you doing?
Doing awesome. I'm
Awesome.
excited to be a part of this.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you, and I'm excited to hear about Godspeed and the God Walk app software. So we'd like to jump right into it. If you could start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you'd like to do for fun, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've always been an entrepreneur. So what I like to do for fun is actually be successful. I know that sounds kind of funny, but I've always had business. I've always been in business. I've always been an entrepreneur. And as I create businesses and stuff, I buy toys. So I like motorcycles and race cars, and I got a bunch of stuff that I get to play with.
I love it. I love it. What was your first business? Are you one of those like I was 5 years old selling lemonade on the street or
Yeah, I was a little older than that. I was 13, but I was mowing lawns. So I lived in
okay.
Ohio. I grew up in Ohio, and I had Dan the Man's lawn service.
Okay. Okay. I feel you. I feel you. Well, tell us about Godspeed and the God Walk app software. What do you spend your days doing? What is it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of a story behind it. Is it okay if we kind of fill in the blanks with the story and how it kind of came
Please do.
about?
Jump into it.
Okay, cool. So, like I said, I've always been in business my whole life, and I was very successful in the mortgage business. I actually had a 22-year career and very successful. And then 2008 happened to where the real estate market kind of flipped upside down. And we went from making all this money to nothing. And I lost everything. And it wasn't the real estate market's fault. It was my fault. I wasn't really willing to make the shift to be able to make money in that business anymore. And I went from, making hundreds of thousands of dollars in a month to making nothing overnight. And it was rough. Lost everything. She left. She took the kids. All my cars got repossessed. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, everything. And I was on my dad's couch living there for 2 years, alone and heavily drinking. I wanted to like numb the pain, Timmy. Like I could not feel it. And one morning, God spoke into my mind when I woke up, and He told me to stop drinking, and I was done. And that was July 7th of 2010. I haven't drank since. So a lot of things happened since then that kind of brings me to today, not drinking. It's been amazing.
Okay. Okay. So you haven't drank since, and that was July 7th of 2010. Is that right?
That's right.
Love to hear it, man. Congratulations. That is amazing.
Thank you.
First off. And
Yeah.
second off, what did that process? So you stopped drinking, you're still on your dad's couch. What was the process back to that
Yeah.
being successful, that thing that you enjoy so much?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sitting there on the couch that morning. Usually I'm like starting to drink, and I'm like, I gotta get my stuff together. Like, what am I gonna do? And I really got to a point to where it's like I've got to start building some more business. So I got into a network marketing company, was massively successful in there, built a huge team. I was one of the top executives, had thousands of people on my team, and was making very high level money as they would call it. But it wasn't the money I was used to. So I was making money. I got my own place. I got the custody of my kids back. I'm sober. I'm showing up as a father, the way that I need to. And then it was a decision that I made. I had to get back in the mortgage business, so I did that. And as I was, sober, running loans and doing the things that I know I'm really good at, the owner of the company, the mortgage company I was working with at the time, he told me that he's going to offer me an ownership position in the company. He didn't want me to go anywhere because I was doing so well, and so he gave me a piece of the company and a stake in the company, and I just was running and making some serious money. And then there was a morning where it all changed forever. It wasn't like a bad morning. It was a morning of 5:30 in the morning. It's the seventh day of the month. I'm uh, I'm in my office by myself. I have my own building, Timmy. Like this was like large, right?
Yeah.
Got my own teams and my own employees, and everything is amazing. And I look at my account seventh day of the month, and I'm looking yesterday's deposit. There was $131,000 deposited into my account. So that was the sixth day of the month. So that was 6 days worth of commissions for the month. So I made $131,000 in 6 days.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, this is great. This month I'll probably make a $500,000 this month. Not this year, this month. I'm like excited, right? And then I feel myself like selling myself to feel good. Like, what is going on here? Like, I'm supposed to feel good. Why aren't I feeling good? And I prayed. I'm like, God, what is going on? I have the cars back. I have the motorcycles. I have the kids. Everyone's happy in my family. Like, I don't owe anybody any money. Like, everything is great. And I've got a lot of money in the bank, and there's more money coming in. And I'm my own boss. Like, I don't answer. Like, what is going on? Why do I feel like this? And he spoke into my heart again. And he said, son, you're done. You're done closing mortgages. You're out of the mortgage business. And I'm like, Timmy, I'm like, uh, God, you know, I'm pretty good at this. what, what do you mean? Like, I'm done? I'm pacing in my office at this point, like walking back and forth, and I'm literally speaking out loud. And then God's voice is booming into my head, answering every single, question that I have, every single piece the conversation is back and forth. It's the craziest thing ever. It's like the conversation when he told me to stop drinking. Same voice. It's actually the seventh day of the month, many years later, but it's like the seventh. I don't know what it is about the seventh, right? The seventh is coming up here in January, so we'll see
Yeah.
what happens, right? So I'm having this conversation. I'm like, God, uh, that's great, sounds great, but I'm really good at this. I got a lot of stuff that I've got to take care of. I'll do whatever you tell me to do, because I remember when you told me to stop drinking, like my life exponentially changed, like for the better. Um, so I don't know how this looks. And then like the connection was broken, and our conversation stopped because my team started filing in at this point. So, I wasn't going to be walking in the bullpen area of the office, talking to God as my team was walking in. They'll think I lost my mind, right?
Yeah.
So I went about my day. I start, selling. The way that I built my day was I just got to sell mortgages. My team closed them for me. It was very exciting. We would bring in anywhere from 2 to 5 new deals every day. I would be selling them, and then the team would close them, and then I would sell them, and they would close them, and all I would do would just be selling deals. And really, not like selling deals like a used car salesman, but I'd be building relationships with families, and they would trust me, and they knew that I was there to help them and serve their needs with their mortgages. So it was a very great thing that I had built. And the first day after this conversation I had with God, I didn't sell anything. Like, it was one day I remember where it was like everyone was saying no to me. Like, what's going on? Like, what do you mean you're saying no to me? The second day, I'm like running and gunning on the phone, like, talking to these families, all new families. Like, I just got them lined up, and they're like, no, we're going to go somewhere else. Your fees are too high, or your rate's too high, or this, or like, I don't hear this stuff ever. I'm like, what's going on? Third day, I'm in the morning doing the deal, and it still knows. So I literally lost in like 2.5 days, like 15 or 10 deals that I should have, started. Like, I'm not closing anything. And I look at my calendar, and it's like a chiropractor appointment that I have set. It's every week that I have it. And it's like maintenance. Like, it just like gives me energy. So I always go to this one chiropractor. So I go there, and I'm like excited. I'm like, I got to get the hell out of the office. Like, I can't close nothing. I can't sell nothing. Like, everyone's like saying no. Like, I got to get out of here. So I go to my chiropractor's appointment. I'm in the waiting room. God speaks into my mind again. He says, delete your database. And I'm like, what? He's like, delete your database. And I'm like, and we were just talking, off air about, databases and, building up everything and building up audiences and all this stuff. Like, I had 22 years of this, Timmy, like
Oh.
22 years of my blood, sweat, and tears. And I just remember this. I'm like, what do you mean delete my database? He's like, you're done. Delete your database. And I'm like whispering because I'm in the waiting room. I'm
Yeah.
whispering. He can hear me, and then he's talking back to me, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. He's like, delete your database. That's what I just told you. That's what you do. He's like, isn't it weird that you haven't closed a deal or a new deal in 2.5 days since we had this last conversation? I'm like, oh my God. He's like, you're not going to close another mortgage. I won't let you. Like, delete your database. I'm like, okay, fine. I have tech that's like very high level. I've been in the business for 22 years, and I'm not a techie guy, but I am pretty savvy when it comes to systems and programs, and I'm very strategic on how I build things. So I had my whole database on my phone, like literally in a website, in a CRM system that I had. I hit delete for everything, all records. Then I go to the trash and hit delete. It's gone, man. Like I have no opportunity to have anything. I have no leads. I have no notes, no past clients, no new clients like needing to re-up on their mortgage or like change their mortgage or, you know, they're ready to move in 6 months. I'm supposed to call them in 4. Like none of that. It's all gone for 22 years worth of this. I'm freaking out. I'm in fear. And then the chiropractor calls me back and he's like, all right, we're ready for your adjustment. Come on back. And I'm like, I lay on the table. My body's like a wreck like this. And the guy is the same guy that works on me the whole time. He's like pushing on me. He's like, you have a lot of stress in your life. You're really tense. I'm like, dude, you don't even understand like what's going on. He's like, oh, tell me. He's trying to like Dr. Phil me. I'm like, dude, we don't have time to discuss what just happened in your waiting room. He's like, oh, no, tell me, I'm all ears. I'm like, no, we're not having this conversation. So he does his adjustment. I leave and, you know, literally the rest was history with the mortgage business. It really was.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then did you immediately start working on Godspeed and the God Walk app software, or did you have like a period of silence? Like how did that come to form?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is what happened. So I go back to my mortgage office with no leads, no database. I walk into my office and I shut the door. And I'm in like the big corner office, right?
Yeah.
It's comfortable. I shut the door. It's not comfortable this day. I sit in there and I'm like, okay, God, I'm starting to pray again. I don't usually like pray like this in my office, but now I'm like, this is like I need to know like what's going on. He's like, just go home, spend some time with your kids, and tomorrow wake up early and walk with me. Just go for a walk with me. And I'm like, okay. So this is kind of how it came. I'm like, all right. So I go home. I never go home early. It's like 2:00. I'm like home. And everyone's like, oh, you're home early. I'm like, yep, I'm home early. They're like, what happened? I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm just playing with the kids, right? Just hanging out with my little boy. Well, 2 of my boys were at the house that day, and the little girl, we're just hanging out. And the next morning, I wake up early, and I'm not like a park guy, but for some reason, I was like drawn to go to this specific park. So I go to the park. It's hot. It's Vegas. It's really hot. I'm walking around in the park, and I'm just like having a conversation with God. And literally, I start going back and forth, asking God questions like, how am I going to not close mortgages anymore? Like, I've got this lease that my name is on. I've got this. I've got that. I've got all these things. Like, God, what am I, how am I going to do this? And he's giving me like bits of information. It's not like a clear conversation. He's giving me pieces. So I get the pieces. I go back to my office, and then I'm like thinking about what I'm supposed to do with like what he told me to do to like deconstruct this business, right? The next day I walk. I show up to the same park. It's early in the morning, like the sun's barely peeking up. It's 5 something in the morning, and I'm walking, and he starts talking to me again. And then I started to notice that like as I'm more strategic with the questions that I ask him, the answers are better. Like the clearer my question is, the clearer the answer is. So I started noticing this, and I'm like a real strategic guy. Like that's how I built a lot of, like, that's my favorite word. I built business out of being strategic, like doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. So I'm like, okay, God, like obviously this is not like a money problem. Like I don't have a problem making money or paying the bills. I never have. I was 13 years old making money. Like I bought my first car when I was 16 with cash because it was my money, because of the money that I made with my business. Like I don't have problems making money, but it's like a purpose problem. Like I'm doing something wrong. I could just tell because you stopped me. You're like blocking me from the mortgage business. There's a reason for that. So I started asking the question, what is my focus? What is my direction for my financial purpose? And that question started opening up floodgates of God, like giving me like coaching and revelation. He would like literally give me paragraphs of downloads of just, and I would like hear this in my head. And it came so fast that like I decided to pull out my phone and get to like a note section on my phone and then hit the voice to text. And I started speaking what was coming to me. And it wasn't God's voice, but it was God's inspiration with my voice. He like would give me all this stuff, and then it would be like almost like a flow state. I'd be walking, wouldn't be sitting, I'd be walking. No one would be around because it's early. Like people don't wake up that early in Las Vegas. Like usually they're going to bed around that time. So like I'm alone, right? And I'm just like in this flow state, Timmy, and I'm like talking, and he's like, I'm like, okay, so how do I get out of this lease? And he's telling me, and it's like, he's like, call the president of the company, tell him you're giving him your pipeline, your active pipeline, and in return, you want him to take over the lease. I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. I would never think about that, other than like I'm giving all this money away. I won't have any ramifications on a lease. Like, okay, great, that's solid. So I'm like speaking this as he's telling me, and I'm like getting these big paragraphs in like my note in my phone. So as I'm like deconstructing and starting to build things, God is like speaking into my mind every morning as I'm walking with him. And he's telling me exactly what steps to take, to a point to where one morning he's like, all right, son, I'm proud of you. Now you're ready. You're ready to actually know what your financial purpose is. And I'm like, okay, tell me what's my financial purpose? He's like, you're supposed to find the alpha men that are out there, and you need to connect them with me. You need to connect them with me so they can figure out how to find their financial purpose, how to, have their body and health full of energy and strength, how to lead their families. You're going to find these masculine men, and you're going to teach them how to lead, their families, their companies. They're going to change the world as they're connected with me, because they're going to be told exactly what they're supposed to do from me. And you're going to build this inside an app. So he's like telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God. And literally, like, the God Walk app came from this flow of me, talking with God, like asking him and following him, and him telling me to do something, me doing it, and then me asking more questions. And it was like literally like every step that he told me to take, I would take it. And then there was the next step right after it. So it didn't happen all at once, to answer your question. It happened like in stages. And it's been amazing ever since.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love that. I love a good walk with God too. That's awesome that is kind of where it came about and where you were able to enter prayer and hear his word. Just curious. So, how do Godspeed and the God Walk app software, like, are they paired up? Are they two separate things?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So God explains to me, he said, what you're going to do for these men that actually download the Godwalk app and they actually are walking with me, they're going to be able to operate in God speed, not human speed. And I'm like, explain. Like, this is huge. Like, tell me like more. And so he's explaining to me that when people are in human speed, like we only can operate on like what we know, like our own conception of what we think we're supposed to do, or what marketing we're supposed to do, or what sales we're supposed to do, or what fulfillment we're supposed to do, or what workout we're supposed to do, or what diet we're supposed to do, or how we're supposed to show up for our families. Like, it's only like our conception or what we know, like with coaching that we've gotten, or experiences from our parents or our surroundings. Like, that's human speed. Like, that is like our understanding of life. And he's like, so people can operate in human speed, and they can continue to just to crawl, in human speed. He goes, or you can connect them with me, and they can operate in God speed, to where I will tell them every single strategic step to take to be able to get exactly where they need to go. Like, in their business, in their body, in their relationships. Like, I will give them everything. And I'm like, holy crap. So what Godspeed is, and Godspeed with Daniel, is the company that actually is the opportunity for men to be able to connect with God directly and be able to operate in Godspeed. And the way that they do that is, I'm not the guru, I'm not their coach, I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm not going to tell them how to market or how to sell or any of that stuff. I'm not going to close a mortgage for them. I'm not doing any of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to help these men download the Godwalk app. And then once they download the Godwalk app on their phone, on their Android or their iPhone, they literally can start walking with God, because everything inside the app is there for them to have this direct connection that I've learned and built this rhythm around, to where they can operate on God's inspiration, God's coaching, so they will be in God's speed versus human speed.
I gotcha. Man, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
tell us about the app. If I were to go
Yeah.
download it right now, when I get into it, is it just going to track how long I walked with God? Is it going to give me
No.
scriptures to meditate on during the, like,
Yeah.
what is the app?
Yeah, it's such a concept, isn't it? It's like, whoa, okay, it sounds great, but what is it? Like, that's exactly what you're asking me. And I get that question a lot. People don't understand. This is not like an opportunity where there's like this AI to where like, you throw a name or a word in there and then like it finds a Bible verse and gives it to you and read this and meditate on it. Nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a Bible thumper. If you read the Bible, great. If you don't read the Bible, great. This is about you talking with God. There's no rules about this. There's no box. There's no religious box. If you're religious, great. If you're not religious, great. Like, that doesn't matter. But you talking to God is what matters. And the only requirement for this to work, the first requirement is you have to believe that there is a God or there's something bigger and better than you. That's the first requirement for it to work. So if you think that you're the baddest man on the planet and you don't need any help, then you should stop listening because,
It's fair.
let's just be real. This is not for you. But if you know that there's something bigger, there's something better, there's something that can guide you to be the man that you need to be, then this is what it is. So I developed like this rhythm inside my walks, my personal walks. So I want to talk about that first before we talk about like the actual God Walk app. Is that okay if we do that?
Go for it.
Okay. So I realized like there's a certain way to actually like harness or open the channel up for God's coaching to come in like clear and very efficiently. What I noticed is when I first started walking was I had to set an intention. I had to set an intention on what that God walk, my intention was for that God walk. Like, what's my goal or what's my outcome or what do I want out of this walk with God? It's not, oh, I'm just going to go to the park and, make sure I don't, step in any duck crap. Like that's not what this is. This is like, God, I'm walking with you today because I'm looking for the next steps on how to build this or my next steps on this or the next steps, whatever. But like I'm setting the intention. I noticed when I would set an intention, then the walk would be way more efficient. It would be so strategic and God would literally open up way bigger because like I already set the stage. This is what I'm looking for. And knowing that it's not like I'm not putting orders, like God doesn't work for me. I work for God. So it wasn't like I was putting orders in and being like, I want this. And that's not what an intention is. An intention is I'm looking to gain clarity on this. See, it's still like I need you, right? So
Yeah.
that was number one, was setting an intention. I noticed also that some of my intentions were fear-based, meaning it's like, I need to figure out how to shut this down. I need to figure out how to pay this. I need to figure out how to do this. I need to figure out how to, not use all of my savings to keep me afloat while I'm not closing mortgages. Like that's a fear-based intention. So what I noticed is that, and you probably heard this before, you can't be in fear and gratefulness in the same mindset. It doesn't work. You can't have fear and be in gratitude at the same time. It just doesn't happen. So I noticed I'll set an intention and then I'll get into gratitude. So how I would get into gratitude would be I literally would like the last 24 hours of my day, I would just mention to God and thank God for the highlights of the last day that I had. God, I woke up this morning and my body feels like full of energy. Thank you for a healthy body. And, last night I had some amazing time with the kids. My older son and I, we were playing basketball together. It was amazing. We were racing, our motorcycles together, whatever it was, like it was amazing. And what it would do is it would put me in such a thankful position to where like there was no fear because I was so filled up with just happiness, right? And joy. So I would do that. So set an intention, then I would get grateful and get into gratitude. And then the third piece of this rhythm, and this is all like by trial and error. Like no one like told me to do this. I do it every single day. I've been connected to God for a long time, every single day. And specifically in the mornings when I do this, like there's something that happens. And it's he's like right there. Like I have a meeting with God every single day. Like I don't care what people say. I don't listen to people anymore. I listen to God.
Yeah.
Like that's all I care about. Like your opinion, like anyone's opinion, not just your opinion, Timmy, but anyone's opinion, like, that's an opinion. I'm going to check your opinion with God. And if God says to do that or to listen to that or to allow that, then I'll do that. Like that's like my stance. So as I'm building this rhythm, I'm setting an intention, I'm getting into gratitude, and then I'm laying on the table, like what it is that where I'm at in all the areas of my life with God. Here's something I noticed. if we're not honest with God, like he can't help us. He can't help us at all, Timmy. Like I know this for a fact. It's almost like let's talk about like human speed, right? You hire a coach, okay? You hire a business coach and you tell the business coach, I want to make $1 million over the next 12 months. Help me make $1 million. Then the business coach says, okay, how much have you made in the last 12 months? And you say, I've made $475,000. He's like, okay, great. Well, you're almost halfway there. Let's talk about your sales. Let's talk about your marketing. Let's talk about your fulfillment. What are those three? Or all three? He's going to move those around to where, you could double your income. But what if you only made $100,000, but you told your coach you made 475?
Mm.
That information he's going to give you to double your income versus 10 times your income is going to be completely different, right, Timmy?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing with God. Like God is the creator of everything. He knows everything. So if you go to God and you're like, God, I need some help with my body. I don't feel like full of energy, and I'm 10 pounds overweight. When you're 50 pounds overweight, like there's a problem. God already knows, so it's not like he's like you can't fake God out. Like he will not take the head fake at all, ever. But what God will do is he won't be able to give you the information that you need because you're not open to hear it. You're just not. The information and advice can be completely different. So I realized that when I would tell God where I'm at, in my financial purpose or in my body and health or in my relationships, it was like I was laying it on the table and being like, God, this is where I'm at. This is good. This is bad. And literally just like setting the stage and like knocking on the door of God's door to where the last rhythm part of me actually getting revelation and coaching from God would be asking him what the focus and direction is in those three areas. Like, God, here's my intention. I'm grateful. This is where I'm at. Where do I need to go? And in that rhythm right there that I created was literally what we did for the Godwalk app. So the Godwalk app, when someone downloads it, what happens is they first have training because you have to learn how to like get into a flow state. That's important. So getting into a flow state, I'll give you like the bird's eye view of it, which is just going for a walk and clearing your head. That's like being in a flow state. Now you're not like tense. You're not like in the gym lifting weights. You're not like sitting down at a computer. Like you're just out. You're in flow. You're walking. So you're open. You're more open than you would be if you're sitting down. So you're getting in a flow state. And this is like again in the training, it shows everyone exactly how to do this. But when you're in a flow state, that's amazing because now you're open. The next thing that you got to do is you got to set your intention. So inside the app that you literally hit the Godwalk app and you just hit Godwalk and you start walking with God. The questions are there specifically for you in the same kind of format that I shared with you already. It's going to say, what is your intention today for your Godwalk? And then there's a box. And then what you do is you hit on the box and you hit your voice to text and you just speak what your intention is. I don't want anyone typing with your thumbs or your fingers or, on your phone with one hand, like none of that. You're walking, you're literally holding your phone right by your mouth as you're walking and you're speaking your answers. So you're going to look at your phone as you're walking, you're going to read it, then you're going to speak the answer and it's going to record it. Then you're going to go to your second question. The second question is going to be, in the last 24 hours, what are the top highlights? And then what are you going to do? You're going to speak the answer. It's going to get you into gratitude. Then the other answers are going to follow to where you're going to lay on the line or lay on the table, like where you are in your money, your body, and your relationships. And then after that, you're going to get into this state to where you're going to ask God, you're going to read the question out loud. God, what is the focus and direction I need to have to maximize my financial purpose? And what's going to be amazing about that is when you're in a flow state, when you've set yourself up this way, he's going to speak directly into your mind. You're going to hear him. And when you hear him, all you do is you just speak what you hear. It's just a conduit. It's just a flow. And as you speak what you hear, everything is recorded inside the app. So then once you're done, you can literally go back through it and review it and look at what the action items are for you to take for the day. And it's the most incredible thing ever that I've ever been a part of. Like I've been a coach I used to coach realtors on lead gen and closing. I used to close a lot of mortgages. I've done a lot of stuff, right? And I've never seen anything that was like so powerful and potent to a point to where it's there's no fluff here. Like, if you don't believe me, ask God about it. Like, if there's something I said you don't like, just ask God. He'll tell you. You know what I mean? Like, that's how beautiful this is. That's why I'm so fulfilled now. Like, Timmy, I was closing mortgages. I was making a lot of money. And I felt like shit. Like, I was not good, like, at all. And now it's like I find that man that wants answers. And they really want answers. I know where their answers are. I'm not going to give them the answers. I'm going to just show them where to get them. And God will give the answers better than any human can here on earth. Like, there's no comparison. Like, people like ask me, who's your competition? There's no competition. There's no one bigger than God. There's nobody. There's nobody. You go to church, that's not competition. That's just another highlight. Like, go to church if you go to church. If you don't go to church, don't go to church. It doesn't matter. Like, you just there's no comparison on having direct coaching from God directly. Like, think about it for you. You're building your business. Everybody's building their business, right, Timmy? Like, you're an entrepreneur. I could tell we've spent a little bit of time together. Like, if God told you exactly what to do for your marketing, do you think he would have some good ideas for you?
He'd have some great ideas.
You
100%.
think, yeah, you think God would give you a pretty good idea on how to make sales once you have your audience
Absolutely.
where you want it? Of course. Do you think God would help you with the fulfillment part of once you make the sale and you actually got to give him something? Think he'd help you with that too?
I think he would.
Yeah. So like, that was like a no brainer for me. I'm like, oh my God, I am like so in. Like, this is amazing to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so fulfilled and so happy, is because now it's I get to put smiles on people's faces like yours. Like, you're happy to hear this because this is you've never heard this before. Like, I know this with confidence. I'm not even asking you, like, I already know. Like, no one's talked to you about this before because this has been created directly from God. Like, God needs this. God needs to find the men to lead their families.
Yeah.
He needs people to build business. He needs people to be healthy. He needs people to lead their wives and be fathers, and all of the things that we talked about today. Like, he wants this. So the movement's going to be amazing.
Here's a question. Do you ever encounter people who use the app, or have you yourself ever encountered this situation where you do the God walk, you hear from God, and then you're like, nah, not me, not today. And then you
Yeah.
disobey.
Yeah. I don't disobey. A lot of people do.
Hmm.
Now, I say this with a lot of confidence. I do everything that God tells me to do. And here's the reason that I can do that, because I built a muscle of trust with God.
Mm.
I built a muscle of trust with his rhythm. I know when it's God's voice or when it's my voice. I already know. I know when God's telling me something to do or my head's trying to play tricks on me. That's part of the training that is so powerful inside the God Walk app. Is that's the first thing. Because people will go, no, that's not God. God doesn't want me to do that. Think about it for a second. Like, close a 7-figure business down that's successful, that's in massive momentum. Close it down. Oh, that's not God. That's my head playing tricks on me. Like, you got to understand who's who, right? So
Yeah.
that was the first way to answer your question, Timmy, is you got to know who's who. But once you know that it's God, once you start acting on what he tells you, you'll start stacking evidence. Like, one of the first stacks that I would call it, like, of evidence on listening to God and it being good for me and not bad for me, was when he told me to stop drinking. I tried to stop drinking for years, even more than the 2 years that I was drinking heavily. Like, once I lost everything on my dad's couch, like, it was years before that I was drinking. I would drink to celebrate. Like, I close $100,000 deal. I'd be like, yeah, let's go get drunk. We're celebrating, right? Or if I missed that $100,000 deal, I'd be like, man, I got to drink, man. I don't even want to think about this. So it was always drinking. So I couldn't stop. But the moment that he told me to stop, and the moment that I heard this voice, the moment that he actually told me to stop, and I listened, my life like went like this. It like exponentially grew because I was listening. So that was like a big piece of evidence. And then throughout the way, like, there'd be breadcrumbs of things that he would tell me to do. Didn't make any sense. I still would do it because I knew it was his voice. And then it would be completely amazing. Like to get out of the lease the way that he told me to do it, just as a for instance, because I told you guys about that, that was huge to be able to do that. Like everyone won in the situation, and I won too. I didn't have to worry about it. Everyone was happy. Like I closed, like my employees. I'm like, God, there's 5 people on my operation side that are full time that I pay monthly. Like my payroll was very high because they're all my people, right? I'm like, like I had 2 people on my team out of the 5 that purchased their first home as a result of working with me and working inside the team because they're in the environment of selling mortgages, right?
Yeah.
We have people like 5 people that were renters. 2 of them got to purchase homes, a year, 2 years, 3 years after working with me. Like we had a great team. Like they're counting on me to like pay them so they can pay their mortgage. Like this is not just a little joking around. I got to find a new job thing. It's like, wait a minute. So I'm like asking God, I'm like, God, how do I take care of these people? He's like, this is exactly what he told me. He said, when you call Greg, Greg wants every single person that you groomed. You have a better system than he has. He goes, so he'll take on all their salaries and he'll gladly take them all on under his wing. Every single one of them but one, and only by choice, works for Greg now. All of them.
Mm.
Except for the one went out on his own, which I bless him. He's amazing. Doesn't work for Greg, but all the 4 other ones do. Because God told me, like, strategically, this is what I do. They were taken care of. So I have so much evidence that when I hear something that God tells me to do, like, sometimes it's scary, but you got to have the courage and you got to look back and go, he told me to do this thing, which was really uncomfortable. I did it and my life's better. He told me to do this thing and I was scared, but my life is better. He told me to do this thing and it worked. He's never given me the wrong advice, is my point. So the more you're actually acting, the easier it's going to be for you.
Mm.
And everybody else is listening.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, I love it. And I love the obedience despite fear too. It's like sometimes it is scary, but once you build up that trust, once you build up that evidence, it's like you just go for it. Well,
Yeah,
awesome. Daniel,
absolutely.
I think, have a pretty good picture of what Godspeed is and the God Walk app, but tell us about your dreams and goals vision for the company
Yeah.
and your life going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the vision. The vision is, and this is like the next step into what I'm doing here. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of false press. There's a lot of bad things that are happening in our world and in our society and in the US alone. And I love this country. And this is what I know. I know that when alpha men, are walking with God and getting the truth, all of this crap that's going on in our world will disappear. All of it. Because when there's enough people connected to God, we're not going to take on any of this crap. Like the gender confusion, the let's take our guns away to defend ourselves. All of this stupid stuff that is just being pushed is horrible. And when people are connected to God, and when enough men are connected to God, and that's why this message is for the alpha man. Like women are not going to change our world. Men are. Men are the ones that are going to defend our country. Like think about it like this: if we were to be invaded right now, we are in a very bad situation. Like if we had to go to war, like physical war with guns, and not a nuclear threat, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But if we had like a war, like a World War III, but it'd be like looking like a World War II, we're in deep trouble because our military is teaching our men to learn how to be nice to everybody. They're not even teaching our men in the military how to be tactical and defend ourselves and kill people. Like that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So my vision is to have, and this is what God has actually put in my mind, and why I'm doing this in my drive is I need to connect enough men to God so they can be a part of God's army. We actually have an opportunity called Men of God, which is God's army, literally connected directly to God like I am, to where we are walking with God on a daily basis. We're meeting every quarter. We're assembling every quarter. They have specialized training on a weekly basis to where these men of God are literally going to be strong men that are going to change the world. They're going to make the moves that need to be made in their community and throughout their states to make this world and make our country like safe again. Because right now it's not safe. So that's my vision. It's kind of a big, long answer, but the men of God and God's army is something that will change the world forever.
Mm. So, putting it succinctly, connect enough men to God so that they're part of God's army. That's the vision for your life and for your.
Yes, yes. And there's two ways that these men can be a part of God's army. The first way and the first requirement is to download the God Walk app. They got to walk with God. Like if they're not walking with God, like then our conversation just meant nothing because they have to walk with God. This is not about us hanging out and being friends. This is not about anything other than you walking with God. That's first step. Those men that are walking with God, those men can apply to be a part of the actual men of God and God's army, where we're meeting, we're spending time together, and we're actually really working on world problems together. And those men are the men that are alpha men that are like, okay, there's a problem here. Like we could be invaded, and I want to make sure that I can at least protect my family. Like I want to be able to make sure that I can build the business the way that I need to build it to be able to have the money and the profits to be able to be safe, to have a body that's in shape, to be able to lead my family. So we're like a tight knit unit to where like if there is a problem, like we're going to stay together. Like those men, they have to apply. And we're not accepting applications yet. We will be soon for the men of God. But that is literally first step. Download the Godwalk app. It's on the Android or the Apple store, and you can do it. And also the Godwalk app, it's $399. It's not free. The reason why it's not free is I need committed men that want to walk with God. If we were to make this beautiful app like we have, and it's everything you need to be able to get every single answer that you ever have looked for in your life, for your business, for your body, for your relationships, and it's free, you're not going to use it. So you got to put skin in the game. It's $399. When you download the Godwalk app, you can pay the $399, and then you'll be able to have all the training, all the God walks, and then all the recorded God walk logs, so you can actually implement everything God tells you to do. That's where we're at.
There we go. There we go. So connect enough men to God that they're part of God's army, and they do that by downloading the God Walk app, which is $399, and then applying, be part of God's army, which is the group that you're a part of and you're building to address real world problems how God calls us to.
Exactly. Yes.
There we go, man. I love it. Any other pieces of the vision that you want to speak to before we move on?
There's just a lot of things that are being programmed into society today, and too many men and too many just families in general are affected by this, and it really hurts me to think that it's okay. It's not okay. Like we have different countries that are the opposite of ours. What I mean by that is like if you look at China for a sec for a moment, do you know what they teach their men? First of all, it's the CCP, which is the communist. That's the party, right?
Mm-hmm.
That party is actually teaching everyone that lives there that they have to be strong. They have to be strong men. They're not allowing the children to play video games for more than 3 hours a week. And if they do, like, it's bad. They don't let movies portray men being weak because they want all their men to be strong. Why do they want all their men to be strong? So they can be strong in a battle, so they can take over the world. That's what they've been trying to do for 100 years. We look at society today in the US. What are we doing? The exact opposite. Hey, if you think you're a girl, but you were, born with man parts, then you can be a girl. You can claim your gender. Are you kidding me right now? Like, how is that person going to defend us? Like, literally, someone, or be nice to everyone. Don't speak your mind. Don't say that. That will upset people. Are you kidding me right now? How is that going to protect our families, protect our land? Like the gun right thing. Like I was never really into guns until I started walking with God. And God's like, you need guns. I got a lot of them now. And the reason I got a lot of them is because the second that I watch society try to take our gun rights away is the second that we can't defend ourselves. Back in the KKK land, do you know what they did to all black men? They took their gun rights away. Why? So when the KKK showed up in your driveway and they want to kill you or take your land or whatever, you don't have a gun to defend yourself. How convenient is that? You have nothing. Think about it when it comes to the Nazi And Hitler, what did he do? He took all their guns away. Why did he take their guns away? So then when he went in there to take you, you couldn't defend yourself. Isn't it kind of obvious that the reason that they're trying to take our guns away again is so that if they come in or they try to come in or when they come in, we can't defend ourselves. Like that's like something I wanted to add to this when you open it up to me. Like we got to make sure like this is dangerous. This is not something cool. Like we're like one of the last countries on earth that have freedom. And that's something that everybody wants to take away from us that is not a part of the US. So that's how I feel about that. Like it's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I think a lot of the narratives being pushed and just like it's so removed from reality, kind of to your point of just like, yeah, it's all good to have conversations and do all this, but the second like stuff gets real and it hits the fan, everybody knows what's going down and how it's going down. And if you're not prepped for it, you're gonna take a
Yeah.
fat L. That's hard to
Yeah.
recover from.
What if someone knocks on your door and says, come outside, government or not, and you don't have a gun?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What if someone knocks on your door and says, hey, nice house, it's mine now, and they have a gun in your face? What are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, that's reality. Forget about what everything is being pushed and all this crap about, you know, what we hear. Like, just think about that for a second. Think about if you had a Chinese army marching down your driveway. Like,
Yeah.
it's a big problem. They're a little skinnier than us. I still love them. They're smaller than Americans, but they're tactically trained and they're mean. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like, and they know how to shoot guns. They know how to like kill people because they're trained to be men. They're trained to be strong men. Like we're the opposite right now. I don't like this at all. I
Yeah.
don't. So my vision is to make men strong, to make men know that they need to be masculine. Feminine is for women. Men are not supposed to be balanced. That's another propaganda bullshit that's like pushed out there. Like, oh, you got to be balanced and you got to have feminine and masculine together. No, you don't. God specifically has told me if you're a man, you're masculine. If you're a woman, you can be feminine. That's how it works. Have you ever noticed, like, when you have a girlfriend and she begins to get masculine, how like there's a rub right away? It's like, wait a minute, you're trying to be authoritative to me? Like, that's not going to work. You got to respect your women, but at the same time, like, they're feminine. We're masculine. I
That,
mean, we could talk about that forever.
we could, and this will be the last point, and then we'll kind of move on a little bit because we got about 10 minutes left. But that's the whole thing.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't respecting women and respecting like just because it's different doesn't mean there are different levels of respect. Like
Yeah.
a woman's role is very much just as much needed because they do stuff that we simply can't, and
Yeah.
that's just the truth. And so I think when it comes down to it, and people will be like, women want respect, and that respect happens to be in the workplace, and you know, honestly, a lot of these corporate jobs don't respect people anyway. But that being said, we're gonna get off the tangent. We're gonna come
Yeah.
back
Yeah. Yeah.
to the show. Um, real quick, we're gonna blow
I
through.
had a good time with you with that, though, Timmy. Like, that was great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm right there with you. So let's blow through these last couple questions so we can get a little bit
Yeah.
more out of you. And this might be an interesting question for you because I don't know how much it's going to resonate, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What are the top 1 to 2 skills that you need to develop right now to make this vision come true of getting men into God's army and making alpha men strong with your app and with your business?
Yeah. So the 1 or 2 skills is not anything I need to develop. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
The consistency that I need to continue with is literally the only thing that is required. I need to literally just keep speaking my message, and I need to keep showing up when I have an opportunity to make the impact on the masculine men that I need to make.
There we go. And if there were 1 or 2 people you can meet right now, and it could be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take that next step toward your dreams and goals, towards this vision that you have, who would that person be and how would they do it?
Yeah. So I'm going to be working directly with Donald Trump. That's someone that's not something that I inspire to meet. Like, I'm going to meet him. We're going to work together. We share the same vision. We want to save our great country together. And we're aligned. We both talk to God. So that's someone that I'm definitely going to be working with. And I can't wait to help him get elected as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Alrighty, we're gonna skip the thriving three because honestly they're a little bit of the softball questions, and we're gonna move
Okay.
on to our kind of final series. Are there any limiting beliefs for you that continue to pop up in your life, or has your God walking practice kind of gotten rid of all of them?
Yeah, so I'm massively connected with my wife at many different levels than just being married to her.
Mhm.
Um, we actually share a technique, or she has a technique that has been given directly from God to her, to where when there's a limiting belief or what we call a negative program that hits my mindset, she clears it spiritually to where I have no limiting beliefs as of right now, because we just did clearing this morning. As the day goes and limiting beliefs start to catch, like, they get cleared immediately. So I have no limiting beliefs.
Mm. And so that clearing process, is it addressing specific limiting beliefs? Is it just a process that wipes them all out? How does that work?
Yeah, it's as they come in, it's a specific process that actually just eradicates them. They don't come back.
There we go. I love it. And we got one last question for you, and that's going to be all we got for the show. And I want to frame this next
Okay.
question. Alex Hormozy, do you know who that is?
I do. Great guy.
He's a boss.
Mm-hmm.
In one of his reels, he said that the difference between manipulation and help is intent. And I think his point here is that you're influencing people in both situations, but manipulation is about getting somebody to do something that you want them to do, while help is about seeking to understand what somebody else wants and then helping them get there. Now,
Yeah.
there's a common saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I actually found out
Mm-hmm.
from Dr. Alan Leica, who was a guest on the show, that you can get a horse to drink. You just have to salt its oats. Now, I want you to think of a person with a really fixed mindset. They're not willing to accept help, not willing to accept change, but they hate their life. How do we
Mm-hmm.
create an environment to salt their oats and help them change their life?
Yeah. So the focus, or at least my focus for that person, is not going to be with them. And here's a reason why. This is what I found that's very, very abundantly true. If someone's not willing to make a change, they're not going to accept anything that's going to allow them to change.
Mhm.
They have to make the decision in their own mind that what they have is not okay currently, and they want to change. So I know that's not like the answer that most people would give you, but that's the one that I'm going to give you. Like, if someone's not willing to change, I'm not going to make them change. They can stay right where they're at. But the second that someone wants to change, then I can show them exactly how to do that.
Mm, yeah, I feel that. What would you say if I were to come back and be like, when there are people who are, they have a fixed mindset, they're not willing to accept help or change, but they hate their life. They want help, but they're living in fear and too afraid to cry out for it. Like, identifying and talking to that person, what would you do?
Well, that was kind of a loaded question. There was a bunch of different scenarios that you threw at me there. I kind of have to go back to my same answer. Like,
Mhm.
if they're willing to accept help, then I can guide them on what help they need to change their situation. But they have to be open for the help, because even if you have everything at your disposal and you're not willing to accept it, you won't change.
Yeah.
Like, take the homeless person for example. That homeless person, I'm sure, had some circumstances that weren't cool, that weren't exciting, but they're playing victim. They live in these homeless people I'm talking about, they live in the United States of America. We have freedom. They're able to build something, they're able to get a job, they're able to do all the things that we do to be able to live in abundance. It's their choice that they made to be on the streets. It's their choice to do all those things. If they're not willing to do what it takes to change a situation, no one can help them.
Yeah.
If they're not willing to ask God for help, God's probably not going to help them. I'm not going to speak for God, but I do know that when I ask God for help, He gives me help. He doesn't just give me help when I don't ask Him all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm so connected, like I do get help now because I'm massively connected to God. But there's a lot of times to where when I'm asking for it, He gives it to me every single time. And I'm sure there's a lot of times where I could have even asked for help sooner from God, and I didn't. And it could have been a lot easier if I would have just listened and asked and listened a lot sooner than when I did. That's the problem that we have, is people that are in these situations, they're just not willing and not open.
Yeah.
That's their own problem. Sorry to say that. I'm
No,
actually not sorry to say that. Let me retract that. I'm not sorry to say that. I'm just saying it. Like, it's unfortunate for them that they're making the decisions that they're making.
yeah, absolutely. It's true. Ultimately, you can't make that horse drink. You can just entice them. And if they don't want to drink and they want to sit there and die from dehydration,
Yeah,
that's just what's going to happen.
that's right.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, is there anything else you want to chat about before we sign off?
I just want to make sure the alpha man that's looking for answers, they download the Godwalk app. This is about impact. This is about changing people's lives. This is about changing and finding those men that need to be a part of God's army so they can make a change. So download the Godwalk app if you're a man and you're listening to this and you want change in your life in any of the areas, in your money, in your body, in your relationships. Like, download the Godwalk app and get the answers from the source, the creator, the one that knows everything.
There we go. Well, awesome. Daniel, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And if you guys are listening to this and you loved what Daniel had to say, make sure to download the Godwalk app. All the links to find Daniel online and find that app will be down in the show notes. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.